Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. We are now in session for the Sedona Fire District. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence.
Since our last meeting, we've had 3 firefighters and 14 police officers that lost their lives in the line of duty.
Thank you. Please be seated. Okay. To start today's meeting, looking to our agenda, we have some staff recognition. Chief Troutwine, are you going to present that?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
So, good evening, Chair, good evening, Board. And this is always, I think, a special time when we can recognize staff for their service. And so, we're going to do that tonight. We have several staff members. The first that we'd like to recognize is Sam Fry, one of our firefighter medics, for 5 years of service with the Sedona Fire District. He started back in November, on the 17th of November in 2015 as a full-time firefighter EMT with our district. And in 2017 became a certified paramedic. And right now, with the importance of education, he has continued to pursue his associate's in fire science. So we want to congratulate Sam on 5 years of service.
All right, very good.
We also have several employees tonight that have hit 10 years of service, and we want to recognize them. In fact, one of them actually stands in the room with us here. That's Jeremy Harris, our user support lead technician. Jeremy, congratulations on 10 years. And Jeremy started in 2010 as our user support tech, and in 2012 became the user support lead technician. So as you know, Jeremy is a very busy man. He does an excellent job keeping all our technology functional while we have our meetings and we work day to day. So, and again, how the sound, how the recording, how the Zoom's working, that's a testament to Jeremy. And if there's an issue, that's because it's probably user error, my fault, just so you know. For the record, before we say more nice things about Jeremy, behind his back. But and some of the awards and special commendations, he got the Customer Service Award 2011. 2014, he received a Unit Citation Award for the Slag Rock Fire. He worked on that. And in 2015, again, the Customer Service Award. So Jeremy is what we like here in the Sedona Fire District in terms of that customer service perspective. So his education, he does have associates in liberal arts. He has his A+ certification, and he is Microsoft Certified Technology Specialist, with also Microsoft Certified Professional. So we congratulate Jeremy on 10 years of service.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you.
Two other employees that have hit their 10 years, one is Jonathan King, who's one of our engineer medics. And Jonathan became a full-time firefighter EMT in 2010 and a certified medic in 2013. And he promoted to engineer medic in 2018. So Jonathan has also received some special commendation awards over the years. In 2012, the Customer Service Award. In 2014, the Unit Citation. In 2017, Firefighter of the Year Award. And in 2017, also another additional Unit Citation. Jonathan has his associates in fire science. He's also an Army veteran. He served from 2003 to 2007. He also served honorably with a National Defense Service Medal, a Global War on Terrorism Service Medal, an Army Service Ribbon, Overseas Service Medal, and Combat Infantry Badge. So quite a distinguished service record for Jonathan there, and we're proud to have him here at the SFD and that he's been with us for 10 years. So our final 10-year of service recipient is Eric Walter, who is one of our inspectors in our community risk reduction, is also our specialist when it comes to our paramedicine, our CIP. Eric became a full-time firefighter paramedic in 2010 here with the district, and he transferred into the community risk reduction specialist CIP position in 2017. Eric received the unit citation in 2014 in regards to our response to the Flag Rock fire, and he does have his associate in fire science and his bachelor's in history. So again, we want to congratulate our 1 5-year recipient award and our 3 10-year recipient awards. Thank you.
All right. Does any board member have any comments for our recognized members?
Hello? Okay, testing. So let's start with Jeremy since he's in the room. Known Jeremy for quite some time with Sedona Fire, and he's always there. He's always helping. Even when he's got stuff going on at home, he's willing to help. He's been an integral part of our success, especially in IT, and I just want to thank you. As far as, let's see, who else? Oh, Sam Fry. I want to say, I haven't known Sam Fry too well, but I want to congratulate him on 5 years of service. And John King, thank you so much for serving our country and for serving Sedona Fire. Very distinguished. I'm very proud of that. I didn't realize all of the amazing things that he had done, so thank you. Last but not least, Eric Walter, starting with us as a firefighter paramedic, and now as a fire inspector. You know, sometimes you just gotta go up the ladder a different way. And I'm happy that he's been with us for 10 years, and I thank him for his service.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Certainly. Representing as an elected member of this board in the community, I just want them to know that the community is proud that we have men, people such as these, when heavy serving in this community. Day to day, they don't think much about it. They're doing their job, the job they love. We certainly appreciate all that they provide.
Okay. Corey?
Yeah. Well, I think it's always an achievement when you reach those landmarks in your career, and you deserve the recognition for it and for sticking with SFD, improving yourselves year by year, which is a contribution to the community, actually. So we're all just very grateful for that level of staying with what your goals are, and continuing to get the training to move up as you have. And so we're very grateful for that, and thank you. And I have to give a little shout out for Jeremy, because he's helped me in times when I couldn't get my computer to work, couldn't get online. So I just want to do that, especially for you, Jeremy. Thank you.
Ditto for me to Jeremy. For some reason, this little box here, this iPad, challenges me, and I appreciate being not feel inadequate because I can't make this machine do it. But all in all, I must admit, as a board member, I'm always learning more, and I'm learning that people in the fire business continue to learn themselves, and the idea of degrees in fire science, or I didn't know that such a thing existed until I got on board. So I just want to congratulate everybody for not only being here for 5 or 10 years, but more importantly, for being part of the community, because even though they work out of a fire station and get on ambulances and fire trucks, the truth is they are true ambassadors of this community and town, and I can't imagine any of us who would want to live here if they weren't here. And so with that in mind, well said.
Thank you, Al. And then lastly, my sentiments are exactly what the rest of the board is saying. So oftentimes what we do, what they do, the members, is in the line of duty. But everything that we recognize them for today is above and beyond what they normally do. And they deserve a pat on the back and a thank you Jeremy being in the room, thank you for all you've done for us in particular, because we probably deal with you more than any of the other members, but nonetheless, firemen don't usually like to be recognized. They really don't. They just want to go about their duty and their business. But, you know, the firefighters in our community, they're our heroes, and we look up to them. And having been one, as well as Gene over there, you know, I'm on this side now, and it's an honor to have these guys around us, these members. So, if you will please, Chief, extend our congratulations to each and every one of them on behalf of the board. Thank you guys very much for what you do.
Yes, sir, I will.
Okay, very good. With that said, the next item on the agenda is executive session for legal advice pursuant to ARS 38431.03A3 and possible instructions to legal counsel pursuant to ARS 38431.03A4 in regards to the Sedona Fire District's lease with Sedona Oak Creek Airport Authority. Do I have a motion to go into, I'll make a motion to go into executive session. Do I have a second?
A second.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? We are now in executive session. Okay, with that said, we are back in public session. As a result of executive session, in discussion with legal and with the fire chief, we have a motion to propose in regard to the airport lease. Motion will read as, and I'll make the motion. I move to approve the tower lease with the Sedona Oak Creek Airport Authority and to authorize the chief to approve and modify any attachment or exhibits thereto, to fill in any blanks, and to modify the agreement to correct any errata with the approval of the chair, and for the chair and the clerk to execute the same. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. At this point, we're going to get into discussion. We'll open that with, to any board member that would have a question for the chief or a comment to be made. Gene? We'll start with Gene. If you'd like, or Al, it doesn't matter.
Well, here, I was gonna ask you a question. I was looking at the lease, and I'm glad that the airport and the fire district have got together on this lease, because those towers provide critical, infrastructure and communications for the fire district. And as I noticed, there are, a few other, people who use the tower, including internet services that we all critically need in order to enjoy life in Sedona. But I noticed that the city IT department and the city fire, the city police department uses these towers. Does that mean they pay us rent to be on those towers, or was this part of a community? What happens here, Chief?
Thank you, Board Member Mello, for the question. So, if I understand it correctly, the question was whether the city of Sedona and the police department of Sedona pay us space use rent?
Yeah, do they rent the tower?
Correct. So, we do have a telecommunications agreement with the city of Sedona, the Sedona Police Department, which really covers our administrative costs, day-to-day costs, the staff that we use to help them with their telecommunications. A small part of that is, yes, we have them up on the tower with us. So it's critical infrastructure, not only for the fire district, public safety communications, and the police department, public safety communications, and the city and their city operations. So they do not pay us for space use, but they do pay us for telecommunications.
Okay, thank you for your clarity.
Okay, thank you, Al. Gene, do you have anything for us?
I'm just curious. I know that, I pay fire district tax and my property tax, whatever. Just wondering if there any, we go up there on occasion, whatever, and potential. I've always been kind of concerned watching these big aircraft come in. You're up there more than I am, Al. Is there any cost recovery involved in response?
you, Board Member McCarthy. So, in terms of our response to the airport and the airport authority, we provide all hazard fire protection, which you would know would include rescue, fire suppression, service calls, emergency medical service, et cetera. We get zero cost recovery for those services.
I'm sorry, Chief, you said zero recovery?
That's correct. As it stands now, we provide those services, and there is no compensation for those services.
Okay. Yeah. Corey?
Yes, well, first, just to respond to that question and answer, it is of concern that we provide all hazard, fire protection up there. There have been occasions that an airplane has crashed, and, which is not only quite a serious situation for the occupants of that airplane, but also for the surrounding brush that might catch on fire. And then, of course, we provide instruction and inspections, and of course, definitely respond to any health issue that occurs in the various businesses up there. So, Chief, you're saying we don't receive a penny for that?
That's correct. We are not compensated by the airport authority or the county for our services up there.
Okay, thank you. Now, I do have another question, Chief. I'm wondering, perhaps that's because they maintain our tower or the building, perhaps they do some things, the airport authority, that is a little bit of compensation. Is that so?
Clerk Cooperman, thank you for that follow-up question. In terms of the respective tower that we're talking about tonight and the building, the Sedona Fire District did construct it at its own cost. It was 100% our investment, and also the repair, maintenance, the utilities, all the variable costs associated with that tower and that building. In addition to the day-to-day costs associated with that, the Sedona Fire District absorbs 100% of those costs. So, as far as I understand, the airport has zero overhead in that infrastructure.
I see. Okay, well, thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
Chief, a follow-up to that response, from those entities that are tenants, if you will, on our tower, does the airport also receive any kind of service from those in addition to the rest of the community members?
Thank you, Chairman Soto. So in terms of service, I do believe there is internet service that's provided to the airport. I wouldn't know their agreements with the other entities up there. In addition, there's quite a bit of internet services provided across the area, not just the public safety component, but to homeowners in areas that wouldn't be touched if that equipment would not be on that infrastructure.
Okay, great, thank you. Joy, would you care for?
Yeah, I just wanted to
comment?
make a comment. This negotiation between ourselves and the airport authority has been going on since March, is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. So, I know, being on the board of the fire district and making sure that I keep an eye on everything that I possibly can for our constituents, that we've acted in 100% good faith during this process. And we're always transparent. I mean, we're just see-through. We're so transparent all the time. And I'm really happy that during this process, we've continued that good faith and transparency during the negotiations, and I look forward to seeing what else is going to be occurring here, knowing that we are always, the same. We always do everything the same. There's never anything that can be said about us that would go to any kind of bad faith. And I just wanted the public to know that any questions, you call us at any time, and we will answer those questions. and I'm just happy to be a part of this, and let's just see where this goes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joy. Chief, I've got a question, a couple questions for you. First and foremost, your staff deserves a huge amount of gratitude for the work that they put into this. Between you and the airport manager, our county representatives, Randy Garrison for District 3, and Jack Fields, who's the administrative assistant up there for the county. When the four of you got together, or three of you got together, but Randy also had input, you guys hammered out a document that seemed to really, it could have been a lot more, or however you want to perceive it, but I think we came out with a document that we could live with for the next 10 years. But the question I have is, how did we come up with those actual numbers? I mean, when you are a leasee, usually something may be on a per square foot basis, or an industry standard type of format, or even being comparable to the others that are up there. How did the numbers that are in this contract come about?
Chairman Soto, thank you for that question. So, I did ask in the process of negotiations how they were calculating the cost, and to date I've not gotten an answer. So I could not answer that, and I'm aware of the methodology.
Okay, so this could very well be perceived that it just came out of thin air, rather than some sort of factual numerical equation that we could really hang our hat on. Okay. I'd also like, maybe I'll check, let me verify with legal, can we ask the chief during this moment of discussion for any additional input he may have?
Sure.
Okay, so Chief, is there anything else you'd like to add in public session here to this, the lease agreement, before we go to vote?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you to the board for their questions and their involvement. I do appreciate the input. And I also want to iterate the strong work of staff here, and appreciate the support and the staff and the jobs they've done over the number of months. Also, I think there's a lot of positive outcomes with this. Now, based on some of the questions I heard, obviously, the board does see some of the change with it also. So I think if there's changes that maybe the board has concerns, or further concerns I might have, I think those are opportunities down the road for discussion. You know, I think the positives are we can maintain that public safety communications. We all knew, as the airport authority and us, when we went to the table, that was our number one thing. We need to maintain that service to the community. And then other reciprocal and mutually beneficial type agreements, we can continue to look at that. And also, I think, you know, it was brought up in some of the questions, just the cost recovery from our perspective. I think, and I would hope that the board would be open to start to look at those issues as related to this property, and because we want to be prudent to the entire community and all our constituents. So I think, again, I'm glad about the agreement and the outcomes. I think they're positive. And on the other hand, too, with some of the questions I'm hearing, I think there's other certain things we're going to have to talk about down the road.
Okay, very good. Is there any further discussion by any other board member?
No.
Well, I look forward, I'm looking forward to, certainly, what we have in front of us, what have you. There's a lot of work going into this and so forth. Thanks to Paul. And I'm looking forward to, as achievements and things that are down the road, that can provide a positive outcome.
Okay, super, thank you. Corey?
Yes, Chair. Would you be asking for our vote one by one?
Yes.
I might have something to say then, or if you prefer.
I prefer that when we vote, we stick with the vote.
Very good.
Our comments out now.
Oh, okay, thank you.
So if there's anything else you'd like to say,
Yes.
now's the time.
So I want to say that that there appear to be some inequities in this contract, and yet it has many good features. It's taken months and months, with good faith efforts on the part of Sedona Fire Chief, on the part of you, and staff support, and Mr. Whittington, also. So I just want to say that, that I do have concern for the fact that there's no, evenness of the services we provide, as opposed to, also that we also have to pay money for the tower besides providing services. And that the, airport authority does not help us out in any way, even in regards to maintenance. So I appreciate, because of the good faith efforts, and the contract has a lot of excellent, pieces to it, I can be close to supporting it when our vote comes around.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, if there aren't any further comments or questions for the chief, I will now call the vote. In this vote, we will be doing a roll call, and if you will vote either yes in favor of the motion, or no or against the motion. Okay, with that said, I will start with Gene McCarthy.
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
Corey?
Yes. I'm going to vote yes, for the reasons that I said.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you. Joy?
No.
And I also vote, no. So with that said, I show the, motion as 3 yes and 2 no. Therefore, the motion carries and is approved. We can now forward the document for airport, voting and county voting. Okay? Thank you very much. Thank you, Chief, and please, express our sincere thanks for all the work the staff did.
Yes, sir, thank you.
You bet. Okay. Next item on the agenda. We have any speakers for this evening? No? Okay. Consent agenda. On our consent agenda, we have the regular meeting minutes from our October 20th meeting and the executive session minutes from the October 20th meeting. Do I have a motion to approve? I motion to approve the consent agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the consent agenda is approved. At this point, we have our next item on the agenda is the financial report and updates by our finance director, Gabe Boldra.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, we can, and thank you for your patience in waiting for your agenda item.
Of course, and I do apologize, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I was really hoping to be there in person this month, but unfortunately, I am a casualty of COVID, so I'm going to be on quarantine until next Thursday. But
How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, no symptoms, so just doing well, just kind of stuck at home and can't see my kids, but we'll get through this. So.
So sorry.
Wish you the best. You're in our thoughts, so
Oh, my God.
get well.
Thank you, guys. And then I'm going to go ahead and let Sarah from our office go ahead and do the presentation for this month.
Okay, thank you.
Take care, Gabriel.
Thank you, guys.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Sarah Simonton with James Vincent Group, and I will walk through the October financials for you. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. And I should be sharing my screen so that you guys can see. Perfect. So with that, we'll get into it. October 2020 revenues came in at $6,621,707. That was over budget by $809,614. Tax levy revenue came in at $6,128,571. That was up from our budget, but that was strictly due to timing of collections, and you'll see that in our next slide when we look at year to date. Non-tax levy revenue was $493,136, which was over budget. That was driven primarily by wildland revenue. Total expenses for October were $1,339,307, which was under budget by $46,000. That I'm going to touch on a couple of the big drivers of that. Personnel was under budget by $30,000, and that's driven by some timing related to our health insurance costs, offset by increase in wages to support those wildland deployments. Vehicles and equipment was also under budget by $26,000, and that is driven by timing of our PP&E purchases and lower vehicle maintenance costs. And finally, managerial is over budget by $15,000, but again, that is timing also related to our EMT paramedic training that we saw all the costs come through in October. With that, I will move into year-to-date. Year-to-date total revenue is at $8,190,299. As I mentioned in our previous slide, tax levy revenue is flat year-to-date to the budget, coming in at $6,455,209. The predominant driver of the revenue over budget right now is in our non-tax levy revenue category. That came in at $1,735,365, which was over budget by that $621,000. And that is predominantly driven by wildland revenue, which is up $290,000 year to date, and grant revenue up $332,000 year to date. Total expenses year to date is at $6,681,123, and that is over budget by $372,767. And that is primarily driven by, in our managerial cost category, you'll see there related to our grant expense for radios, which was $405,000. The personnel cost is $5,294,678. And that is up from budget by $19,000. And again, that's driven by additional costs to support our wildland deployments that we will see the revenue reimbursed for, offset by some timing in our health insurance costs. Building and land is down $15,000, and that's just driven by lower repair and maintenance costs thus far. Vehicles and equipment is down $19,000 due to lower vehicle maintenance costs thus far. And communication and IT is under budget by $32,000 due to lower communication equipment and support costs. Oops, sorry about that. Moving on to our year-to-date expenses as a percentage of budget. Currently, we are 1/3 of the way through the year, and we have spent 39% of our budget with 61% left to go. We are on track, obviously, to meet that budget. Some of the drivers of why we're showing that 39% versus more of a 33% is that we did see that grant expense come through earlier in the year, as well as our wildland deployment costs, both of which have some revenue offsets that are also occurring. Year-to-date percentage of spend or expenses. Right now, personnel costs as of October year to date is 79% of our budget, or 79% of our actual costs. Communications is 5%, operations is 7%, and managerial is 9%. And finally, with our cash position, we continue to see favorable year-over-year cash position. We ended October with $12,650,643 in cash, which is up $3.1 million from this time last year. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, does any board member have any questions for Sarah?
Couple quick questions.
Sure.
So hi, Sarah, this is Joy Moore. I was just curious, in regards to the buildings and land, vehicles and equipment, and the communications IT that are far below, is that going to even out throughout the fiscal year, or is this a savings that we're going to see accruing?
I would say that it's something that will potentially even out throughout the year. We did have some things that were planned in that budget that when we spent or planned out that budget, we maybe spread it a little bit more evenly throughout the year, that we will see it more come to life in the second half of the year.
Okay,
I
great,
don't know,
thank
Gabe,
you.
if you want to add to that.
Right. Thank you.
I think that was a-
Sir, I do have a question for you. We just, voted on a, new lease for the airport. And that expenditure for us is significant. In our balance sheets that are the precursor to all the graphs that are here, where is that going to show? Can you kind of pinpoint where that may be placed in these, spreadsheets?
Gabe, do you want to take that?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, members of the board, I'll go ahead and take that one for Sarah. So
Okay.
that currently, obviously, that is a unbudgeted expense for this year. And so as, you know, I mentioned in the board communication, that agenda item, we fortunately have enough savings categories and have the capacity to absorb the cost. So it's definitely not going to create any budgetary issues for us. But that expense going forward will be included under our buildings and land, you know, functional category as a leased land expense, similar to what we have for one of the stations up in the canyon.
Okay, so it'll be just part of that line item or that graph.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. All righty. Thank you. That's the only question I had. Any other questions for Sarah or Gabe? Okay, well, thank you very much. I appreciate your report. A motion to approve the financials for this past month.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, finances for last month have been approved. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Feel better, Gabriel.
Okay.
Well,
At this point in time, we have our fire chief report. Chief, floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairman Soto. So we'll review some of our statistics here. And the first one here is our 2020 monthly incident summary. So you can see that 2020 year-to-date, we responded to 3,252 incidents. Year-to-date 2019, that same time period was 3,367. So you can see it's slightly down. I think that does reflect the springtime when we had a decrease in call volume because of the lockdown from COVID. You look at October, you can see our response. Our response has been pretty consistent for the last handful of months, relatively. You can see the revenues down at the bottom, stayed pretty steady. And that's a significant call and and it causes significant resource deployments for us. So when we reflect on our 90th percentile, in other words, that's the time frame that 90% of the time we get to those incidents in that time frame. But it's 6 seconds. 2019 year-to-date was 9 minutes and 25 seconds. So you can see we're slightly up in the year-to-date. October was similar to September and August. And the last few months, you can see our trends are staying pretty similar. When it comes to our monthly average response time, year-to-date from 2020, we were at 6 minutes, 53 seconds. Year-to-date 2019, 6 minutes, 24 seconds. In October, we were at 7 minutes, 5 seconds. Responses by station, again, trend pretty consistently. With station 1, 3, 4, 6, and 5. And what I will say, just to camp for a second on this slide, we do responses by station. So the total number of responses you'll see, like for example, station 6, has 42 total responses. And you'll see that when it reflects on calls in the district, so 17 of those calls were in that first due area. Why I wanted to note that out and use that as an example is it's strategic where we have all 5 stations. When you look at the call volume at each station, if it's a station with a lower call volume, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's not in a good strategic position. And I give Station 6 as an example. That's our newest station. And you can see over half of its responses go into other districts, most likely District 3 and District 4. So again, if you remove that station, District 4 would have to back up District 3, which is a very, very long response time. Or potentially District 3 could back up District 4. Again, we have Station 1, Station 5. So the key with, when we look at these responses by station, isn't necessarily the number, but it's strategically having the stations spread out. And then knowing, while we reflect both numbers, how many calls they ran in their first due, but also how many calls they ran in somebody else's first due. So the whole system is predicated on supporting each other. You know, especially with the ambulances, right? If you're the last ambulance available and you're in District 3 and the call comes in District 1 out in the Red Rock Loop, guess what? You're responding to it, and that's a long investigation. So I wanted to kind of just bring that up as a side. And another thing, one other comment I want to make on this slide is this reflects calls. It doesn't reflect what we would call the commitment of that unit throughout the day. So there are other things that we do. We check our apparatus and equipment, we do station maintenance, we do apparatus and equipment maintenance, we train, we do physical training, so we're physically fit to do all those trail rescues and firefights. So we do a lot of public support, public community events right now. They're relegated to drive-bys and waving, right? But I just wanted to note that this reflects the calls, but understand those stations, they have a lot of programs, a lot of support activities that they do day in, day out. Yes, I see a question.
Yeah, Chief, I just wanted to make a comment. I think when you, in your example of describing Station 6 and the necessity of having it there, without it there, I think the critical thing would be 3 backing up 4 and having to get through the traffic on the 179 that is increasingly being backed up for more and more. So it is a strategic location for 6. But what I also look at is when you look at the difference in call load between Fire Station 3 and 4 compared to 6, is there any consideration to alleviate some of the call load from 3 and 4 by and giving some of that to Fire Station 6 by way of expanding boundaries for 6 to pick up additional ones and alleviating those very same calls for the surrounding companies?
Sure. So we want to be careful on that. It's just extending too great of a response time.
Yeah.
So again, we pick their borders based on the typical response time. And is it something we always want to look at? Yeah, I think of course. I think we always want to improve our deployment and response to the best that we can. So anything that we look at and data we look at, that's what it's supposed to do, right? Drive us to look deeper if we need to. So it's always something we can look at. And again, my only caution would be is if we extend that response time, too great. That's all.
Yeah, okay. Just what that popped in my mind. I thought I'd run it by you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, any more questions on our data?
Just
All
real,
right.
oh,
Yes.
I'm so sorry, just
Go
for
ahead.
one quick second. So the mutual aid is with off district, that's just mutual aid?
Yes, that would be outside of the Sedona Fire District, whether it's in any of our stations first due, but yes, outside of our boundaries.
Okay, thank you.
So we'll, I believe we still have Chief Coyle on the Zoom. So
Yes, sir, you do.
I'm gonna turn the operations over to Chief Coyle.
Hey, good evening, members of the board and Mr. Chair. How are y'all?
Good evening.
Evening.
Thank you for joining us tonight.
You bet, you bet. Hey, so I'm gonna run down through our COVID-19 protocols, significant incidents since the last board meeting, and then a little bit about our wildland-related activities, and then I would invite any questions or comments you may have. So we'll start with the COVID-19 protocols. Currently, our protocols are the same protocols that I discussed last month, and we have continued to have no identified spread within the stations, even though we have had exposure to personnel outside of work. While it's not a a double-blind clinical trial type approach to the efficacy of what we're doing. It appears that relative to other agencies that had adopted less stringent standards, that the standards that we have in place continue to be effective, and the personnel continue to exercise extreme diligence and be forthcoming with any issues they may have off of duty that present a risk on duty, so we can take appropriate actions. That's worked really well. And all that's occurred in the backdrop of a situation where Arizona's 14-day trend has increased by 78%, and the percent positivity in the state is up to about 16.5%. So again, the reason that number is so important is it demonstrates that there is an inability to do effective contact tracing and outside of the Sedona Fire District. So it makes it more important for us to have meaningful mitigations in place within the district, because we can't depend on external actions to reduce the potential exposures for our public, for our personnel, and then consequently the public that we serve. Yavapai County is up to 481 positives in the last 14 days. So that's kind of, that 14 days is usually what you consider that may be infectious. 301 of those in the last 6 days. So, I'm sure everybody's seen it on TV across the nation. We're setting records and everything's trending the wrong way. There is some good news with the vaccine trials, and I'll just touch on that briefly. And that is that there's 11 different vaccines that are in phase 3 trials. 2 of them have been unlocked for an initial peak, if you will, to determine whether or not there is, if they're showing efficacy. I think it's important to remember that for these trials, these short looks at efficacy were just on their ability to prevent serious disease, not necessarily to prevent, it's not like sterilizing immunity where it would prevent you from getting the virus and being able to transmit it. You may be able to transmit it still, because that's not what the trial's testing for, but initial indicators are 90 and then 94% for the Pfizer and the Moderna respectively, that the initial look is that they have positive efficacy when it comes to preventing serious disease. With moving on to the significant events, up until that storm system we had on November 8th, we primarily had unseasonably warm weather, and that contributed to the backcountry rescue calls. And those started October 22nd, had a number of significant events. And we also had 3 different vehicle versus, 2 versus pedestrian and 1 versus bicycle, that ended up with some serious injuries, and crews did a great job on those calls. Patients were transported, and I believe, looking at the information, all of those have had a positive outcome in that there hasn't many fatalities from them. We also conducted the siren test in Oak Creek Canyon in partnership with Coconino County Sheriff's Office on October 28th, and we had that little bit of cooler weather on November 8th that kind of provided for a brief downturn in our backcountry calls, and that has since reversed. 2 really big deals that occurred this month that I'm sure Chief Mazulis is going to touch on more were the engineers testing and the new hire academy. I'll leave those for him to expound on, because he is in charge for the great work that was done to make both those come off without a hitch. November 12th, it is worth noting as I segue into the wildland information, is that on November 12th, after those wedding rains we had on the 8th of November, we did have a brush fire off of Forest Service 525 road. As a reminder, if you have tissue paper that you wish to dispose of in the woods, it's better to put it in a plastic baggie, to bury it 6 inches, or just take it with you instead of burning it, because if you burn it, you could catch other things on fire. And with that, the last thing I wanted to hit on was the fire danger. So we've been setting records for fire danger all the way up until that November 8th storm, and we dropped below the historic maximums for this time of year. And now, probably by the next time we do it, in a couple days when they rerun the numbers, we'll be back into that historic maximum. Fortunately, for this time of year, as the sun angles get lower, the burn period gets shorter, except for those high wind event days. Even when we have conditions that are favorable to fires growing, they're very short-lived. So the amount of growth that can really occur again outside of those high wind days is pretty minimal. So it's the benefit of it being this time of year when the sun angles are lower and the days are shorter. that is the end of my report, and I welcome any questions.
Chief Coyle, it's Corey.
Hi, Corey.
And I just want to say thank you and congratulate you and Chief Trotline for the protocols that you've put in place so that we don't have spread within our crew. It's impressive. It's also really important for our community because while we have good staffing, it would be difficult to have a crew or two down in terms of being able to provide service to our citizens. So it's really a wonderful task you've done, an important task, and I want to thank also our firefighters for honoring those protocols because I know it's not easy to wear a mask as long as they're asked to wear them. And yet look at the results that we've had. So I want to congratulate them as well and all of you, and to keep up the good work because we still have a few tough months ahead of us.
Yeah, thank you, Corey. And I agree completely. The firefighters have done a wonderful job making sure that they maintain the standard. And it's difficult. As I'm speaking to you, I'm actually in Washington assisting my parents, and my sister is high risk, and we've been sitting around 6 feet apart with our masks on, chose not to eat anything, but so we could spend a little bit of time with them. But a lot of people are going to have to make some very difficult decisions over the next few months until we can get an efficacious vaccine up into production. And you're absolutely right. The firefighters have been doing that sort of work every single day, and it makes a difference for those high risk populations that we serve. I'm convinced of it. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Question. This is Camelo. When it comes to the vaccine and first responders, is there a protocol for the vaccination being made available to the district?
Al, there is, and so each state is responsible for developing their system for rolling out those vaccines. And if Chief Bezos can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that in Arizona, that we are number 2 in the list of things. It was healthcare providers and then first responders. And we're either 2 or 3. It's either healthcare providers, high risk individuals, and then first responders. And so each one of those vaccines, each one of those vaccines comes with its own set of challenges too. So some of them require refrigeration at negative 50 degrees. And so the logistics of storing and making first, then storing, and then administering enough of them to make a difference is going to be a challenge. And every one of them right now that I'm aware of, except for one by Johnson & Johnson, require 2 doses. And so, yeah, it's going to be a challenge, but if we can just stay the course until those vaccines have finished their efficacy trials and they're available, I think we'll be in a much better position, 6 months from now.
Thank you. One other question. When did fireland deployments end for this district?
Well, I'll tell you what, I hope they're done now. Historically, we've sent a few people out over Thanksgiving before, usually into Southern California. And so right now, that's kind of the only place that's really a threat. That and hunters in the Southwest. So we tend to minimize the number of people that we send out. And actually, we plan things like engineers testing and everything around the normal fire season. And we did choose not to respond to certain requests because of the engineers testing that occurred. But normally, we haven't been out over Christmas. We've been out over Thanksgiving. So I'm hoping within the next few weeks, we'll get some sort of a season-ending event that puts an end to this year's fire season. But right now, there's nothing on the horizon that looks like that type of wedding event that would do that for us for good for the rest of the year. I know that was kind of a wishy-washy answer, but that's about the best I have right now.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Joy?
No.
Gene? Okay. Chief Coyle, just to confirm that the data you gave us for the COVID, does that all come from CDC, Center for Disease Control?
It actually comes from multiple different sources. Dave. So the CDC, it's pretty tough to actually get rolled up data that's all presented the same. So there's a COVID exit strategy that's one side. I went to I go to each one of the counties daily and look at their numbers and then plug them into some different calculators available. One from Georgia Tech that mines data from each one of the different counties to look at what the percent positivity was, and then the likelihood of if you have 10 people in the room, what one of them being COVID positive would be, depending on the rates in the county. Their county level rates, the way that the data is presented is consistent with what the CDC's actually the White House's plan to reopen America, the measurements that they talk about, but it is mined from multiple different sources because there's no one timely resource that has all those pieces of information from the federal government. It'll be
Super, thank you
awesome.
very much. I appreciate that. Okay, thank you again for your presentation. Chief?
Thank you, Chief Boyle. So
You bet.
let's move to community risk reduction to our Fire Marshal, Chief Davis.
Good evening, board members. So, 8 weeks or so, CRR, rate flux for.
Hey, Chief? Yeah, you're coming in pretty garbled.
Can you hear me?
It's not any better. It's marginally understandable, but it's not any better. Any suggestions from anybody to remedy that, or do we want to hold on to him and move on?
Yeah, John, maybe,
He couldn't
sign
reboot.
out and sign back on.
Yeah, I
We'll
think-
come back to you and see if that improves it.
We'll do that.
Okay, well, let's move down to EMS and fleet training, see if Chief Azulis has a little better quality on this call.
All right, I'm up in my office on district internet. How do you hear me?
Good.
Loud and clear, thank you.
All right. Well, talking about EMS activities, the NAH cancellation of our CIP program is essentially, as NAH restructures a lot of their operations, we had a medical director that was specific to how we did our community paramedic program with the hospital referrals, and they did not renew that physician's contract. So we're currently evaluating with our regional partners how we're going to retool our community health program. And all it essentially means is we're not getting referrals from the hospital, but we're still getting referrals from our crews for patients that may need additional assistance. So currently working on a plan for that, hopefully to report on soon, working with Eric Walter. And then med control update, our medical director, Dr. Curtis, left NAH, and Northern Arizona Healthcare appointed an interim medical director, and we expect that to change in January as they finalize their physicians group. And for those of you on the board that don't know, the reason we have a medical director is because our paramedics and our EMTs work under the license of a physician and his established or her established protocols. So that's why I wanted to bring it to the board that we are maintaining constant medical staffing, but we are working with NAH to evaluate what medical direction is going to look like. And lastly, with EMS, I'm excited to announce the 2 new auto pulses that were approved have been deployed to engine 531 in the village and engine 511 in West Sedona. So we now book into the district with auto pulses to better ensure we'll have that CPR assistance device on scene quicker and regionally with traffic and everything else, make sure we get it there. Fleet, Mike continues to work his magic. All things are in service. Based on the board's approval of the ambulance refurb, we're working with the company Braun Northwest to get the apparatus up to Washington to start the refurb process. So that is ongoing. And then the October training report, as you see, we continue to do a bunch of stuff. A lot of it's online, distanced outside learning. We did complete our new hire orientation and all the guys have hit the floor. And we are wrapping up an engineers assessment center this week. So things are going well. Any questions or comments?
Chief Missoula, it's Corey.
Yes.
So with the CIP program being on hold, are the citizens that have been receiving, follow-through, visits from you all, are they still getting that?
Well, over the past 10 months, there are a couple of people that Eric still works with, but for the most part, we got people to where they were completed the program, if you will, and then NAH, their referral program all but shut down. And so while Eric is, excuse me, has been working on some inside training, he enhanced his CPR training and has been working more with inspections and so forth. We've transitioned his hours temporarily to working on a lot of that other stuff and then keeping John afloat. And so long short is we don't have a lot of patients in the program right now, mainly because of the hospital referral changes. But the crews, when they come across somebody that may need a little additional assistance, Eric has been helping them via phone.
I see. Well, thank you. It's been such a service to our community to have that program. It's disappointing to hear that it's been closed down.
Yeah, and I agreed, and I'm hoping as COVID, the veil of COVID lifts, we'll be able to engage the hospital in more dialogue.
Good. Okay. Well, thank you, and thank you for all you've done with that program.
Thank you. Well, thank you for all your service. I'm sorry I couldn't be in there.
Oh, thanks.
Okay, any other questions for Chief Missoula? Chief, thank you very much for your presentation. Chief Troutwine, back to you.
Thank you, Chief Missoula, appreciate it. Let's see if, did John, was he able to tune back in?
I am back in. Is my communications better?
Oh, much better.
Much better,
Much
a little bit
better.
of a echo, but it's much better.
Very good. Good evening, board members and Chairman Soto. So as you're aware, in the last probably 8 weeks in CRR, it's been a time of great flux as we switch over to our new records management system. That process is going probably as smoothly as can be expected for a change of this magnitude. We've been able to keep up a decent workload this time. We're still learning. In fact, early next month, I'm going to be taking a class on how to write reports so that we can get better data out of the software and present it to you. So that's been a large focus of our efforts in CRR over the last month. We have other things that we're working on. We're looking at the wildland urban interface boundary. We're evaluating that. That was set in 2007 and has not been adjusted since. So we're looking at what makes sense moving forward. We're also, as part of this, since we're delving into the wildland urban interface code, we're looking at possibly updating to the 2018 version of the International Fire Code. I think most of you are aware that we're currently in the 2012 version. We did have a notable event along 89A near the Y as you head towards Uptown. There were fires set probably about 2:30 in the morning on both sides of the road. As it turned out, the suspect, while he was fleeing, fell down and injured himself. And it made it fairly easy for Sedona PD to take him into custody after he had admitted that, yes, he did start both of those fires. Last week, we did lift the fire restrictions. Coconino National Forest, Prescott National Forest, and the other surrounding fire districts had all elected to lift, I believe it was starting last Wednesday, and we elected to move with them. Some of the considerations, as Chief Coyle pointed out, are that even though we're not completely out of the woods as far as fire danger goes, we do have the time of the year with the sun angles and a lower burn time, less intense fires going for us at this time. So we'll see what happens over the next couple of weeks, and I'm sure we'll be evaluating that. And that leads into my safety. Even though we are out of the burn restrictions, it doesn't mean that we are necessarily out of fire danger. So if you're going to enjoy an outside fire, please enjoy it responsibly. All fires should be attended by a responsible person at least 18 years of age. You should always have a means of extinguishing those fires nearby before you light the fire. Don't kindle your fire under power lines or under trees or vegetation. Never leave a fire until it's cold, dead, and out. And probably most importantly, never use gasoline or other flammable liquids to start a fire. That's end of report. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Do we have any questions for Chief Davis? No? Chief, thank you very much for your report. Much appreciated. And look forward to next month.
Thank you.
Chief Troutwine.
Yes, thank you, Chief Davis. So we will move to administration, to our Director of Administrative Services, Heidi Robbins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. We have already talked about a few items on my list. So the new firefighter orientation is complete, and they have all been assigned to their stations, and I understand as of today, everyone has completed at least one tour or at least one day of their tour with their new team. So we look forward to the next year. Engineer promotional testing is largely completed. It is just the chief's interviews that are coming up later this week, so then they will be complete with that process, and we will have a new active list. Our financial audit, our annual financial audit is underway with our new auditor. So we're doing all of that remote right now. And so they've been working one-on-one with each department as they make requests for documentation. So far, almost all of the departments have been contacted by the auditor. And then we'll have audit on site on Thursday for that final pull of the paperwork documentation meeting with a board member. I'm sure they will reach out to one of you for that interview, and then also with the chief. So we're so far enjoying a smooth process as possible under the current conditions. As you can see in our photograph, our Toys for Tots Holiday Toy Drive has kicked off with our award recipients for the community service. They're showing off their pride in what they do. So we are doing that here at the stations. We do have our drop boxes at each of the stations. For personnel, we're not inviting the public to come and make drops at this time for safety, but they have, the Toys for Tots website does have a lot of information on how the public can make those donations, either monetarily or with actual gifts. So if it's easier to do that with money instead of an actual toy this year for some folks, we welcome that. If you call us, we can help direct you to that information as well. Anyone who reads our minutes or listens up, or we can certainly help the board members. You are more than welcome to drop into our boxes in the station. So each station has one. And we look forward to another successful drive. This year might be very challenging for some members of our community with being out of work or reduced hours and so forth. So with our staffing updates, we don't have a whole lot to report here in staffing. Our Chronos update, which is our upgrade to our timekeeping, and then the HR module and the payroll component has been ongoing. They're on track. They meet several times a week. Jeremy, who is here and is honored today for his participation in that, has been instrumental in helping to keep that project on track. human resources and payroll, they're in a testing process right now. And so they'll be running, concurrent payrolls to make sure that we're all on track. So we really look forward to all of the advanced features, that our expanded contract with that company will bring to us. We've been doing a little tracking of our surplus spending, so the fiscal year surplus funds. I said see spreadsheet, and then I didn't give it to Carrie, so I apologize for that not being in your packet. It was not yet complete, and rather than give you something that didn't have the data I'd hoped it would be there, did you pull one for me? No? No?
Here.
Oh, you have one. I have one online, I
Oh,
just
okay.
wasn't sure if you had one. So, did I? Oh, that's excellent. So, we have a couple of our projects that are actually complete. Ed Missoula mentioned that we did get the 2 auto pulse, and they have already been deployed, as have the BK radios, so those radios that are outfitted for wildland. They have been received, and they are deployed as well. And the big wheels and stack skits, getting those all to be the same fleet-wide, those have also been received, and we're excited about that. The things that are on order and that we're just waiting for them to come in are those REMS vehicles, so the 2 new REMS vehicles, they're coming together now. And the hydraulic tools, those are due soon, so getting all of our equipment on all the engines to be the same modern, updated equipment, that is also underway. And then we have some projects for the building improvements, so where we're getting some of our facilities ready for the extended COVID needs, some outdoor patio areas, heating for them to be able to eat outside in the winter, some covered areas for them to do that so they can either do recreating or eating outside to be compliant with our COVID protocol. So part of those projects have been underway, and so we'll look to see that spreadsheet will be updated. We'll do that for you each month so you can see the progress there. And then for the mental health moment, we have lots of things that are for the month of November. The 2 that I noted are that it's Alzheimer's Awareness Month, since we are taking great care now during this, that Alzheimer's patients are certainly one of those vulnerable groups for COVID, both due to their advanced age. Usually, often they're in some sort of a care facility or a living facility that was also at risk. But also some studies are showing that there's an impact due to just a mental deficiency is showing to have some kind of an effect on being vulnerable. And so just to highlight that to make sure that if we can communicate with any of our friends or loved ones who are caring for someone with Alzheimer's, or if you are caring for someone with Alzheimer's, to seek some support, because that's certainly really a very taxing event in normal times, and right now it's even harder. And as we head out of Women's Health Month in October, we head right into Men's Health Awareness. International Men's Health Day is coming up on Thursday, the 19th, which I was unaware. Our EAP program is taking that, so why it's kind of falling under our mental health moment is they're actually focusing on men's mental health this year. It is actually the leading cause of death is suicide for men under 50, and that statistic may be shocking. And so their focus is on removing the stigma for men to seek help and to look at their mental health as something they need to take care of as much as their physical health. So reach out for a resource. Remember that it's a whole mind, body, spirit experience, and go for a whole health notion here for our Men's Health Month. And that is the end of my report, if you have any questions.
Do you have any questions for?
So more of a comment that men's mental health, especially the firefighters who answer to calls that are very difficult to observe and be with, and sometimes suffer from PTSD as a result of that. So the focus on encouraging or letting our firefighters know that it's okay to seek help. In fact, it's good to seek help, because when they do, not only, are they happier, but the people that they live with are too. So it serves a lot of people, but when, our firefighters seek help when they need to.
Yes, great comment.
Thank you for that comment, definitely.
Okay.
For the public listening, and very few of them realize the number of suicides within the fire community. It's dramatically high. And so awareness of those of us firefighters, both active and retired, is very important.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
You are welcome, thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Heidi.
Thank you, Eddie, for your
Thank you.
presentation this month. Chief?
Yes, Gary and Heidi. So, to finish off the chief's report, we had another, follow-up strategic plan meeting with staff on November 2nd. So, we have solidified our goals because we've updated them and also the strategies under those goals. So now it's kind of the heavy lifting part as we continue to finalize that, plan, which is action items. So, we found as staff, those are kind of some of the hardest ones to craft because you don't want to put an action item that you already do that's getting done. So you have to be creative, but it cuts the line under the strategies and, of course, the goals. So, we're in the rubber meets the road mode. So our plan is to put a lot of really hard work into those action items, a lot of heavy lifting, so that they're concise and pointed enough where as we distribute that through staff, all the work's gonna get done. So I'm excited about that. I'm always, when you put a lot of work into something like a strategic plan, for me, if you did your due diligence, the most rewarding part is just the application. That's, again, the rubber meets the road, right? So I'm excited. We'll report more on that as we get more detail. In terms of purchase orders, between 10,000 and 50,000, we had two listed here. Medic refresher training was 16.9, and then the annual timekeeping software that, was 19.2. For social media, you can see a little decrease on our post reads, our engagement, and our new page likes. A lot of times that's related to activities in the district, of course, but you can see the most engagement you got were the couple of brush fires that our fire marshal mentioned, and then also a shortfall rescue. And again, we're out there those rescues are very noteworthy. So, and then the last thing here in this is, again, the thank you letters and correspondence, and again, please take time to read those. It just shows the impact that our firefighters are having, and we really appreciate the hard work you're doing. So, unless if there's any questions, that would end the chief's report.
Any comments for the chief? Any questions for the chief? No? Thank you very much. That the whole report overall was very comprehensive. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Let me step back one. I do have a question. On your strategic plan overview, for a sense of feel on where we're at on that, I know it's a 5-year program. It started out as most everything was a red, going to yellow, then to green. If you had to put the thing in one big oversight color, or where are we at in that? Are we coming out of the yellow, getting more to greens, mostly all greens, or?
Sure. Well, in terms of, you mean in terms of completing the 5-year plan?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, we're on the lower side of the scale because we're updating some of them. Yeah. And it kind of resets the clock. If we were getting close to completing one, and we did, and then we reset with another 5 years. So I'd say we're on the leaner side. What will happen though, when we complete all those action items, we're gonna get back into that Invisio program where we shared some of the graphs with you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you're gonna start to see some of that specific progress. So what we'll do is we'll finish those action items, we'll get that all loaded in that program, which is an excellent program. And, once staff starts using that, then we can kind of bring you some more visual aids that will help see where we're headed and what we're doing.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, with that, said, we've got, our next item on the agenda is the board member items. And item number 1 is discussion of board members' fire district related activities since last board meeting. Kind of give the public an idea or an insight as to what we do during the month when we're not here at the meeting that's fire-related? Al?
Well, I was, had the unique privilege to spend time visiting Station 4 and 6 with Chief and yourself, and I must admit that there's, every time you go into a fire station, you learn more and more about how complex of an industry it is, and how there's a system and a procedure for everything. There's this closet stores this, that closet stores, I mean, and so I came from those two meetings with an even greater appreciation of how sophisticated and how complex this industry is. Thank you for the tour.
You're welcome. Gene, anything?
I've been remiss.
Okay, no problem. You're gonna have a busy month one of these times. Thank you. Joy?
So I didn't do too much this month, except for a couple things. I spoke with the chief, Chief Trotwine, on an occasion in regards to Station 6, because they do have a substantial activity, and I just wanted to make sure that the public knew that, because, not just because, I was one that found the land and I was like passionate about it back in my last term, but because everyone really needs to know that station is not just sitting idle. They're basically doing mutual aid to our other stations, and it's critical for what we're doing, and especially with the new traffic that's been here, that's been around. So that was one of the things. And the second, I'm doing calls and research for our 2021 9/11 event, and so that's an ongoing process, and I've enjoyed it. So that's it for this month.
Good. Okay. Corey?
Well, I've had the pleasure of having a meeting with Chief Trotwine, especially in discussion around the airport authority, the contract with the airport authority, and understanding the thinking behind it, and also bringing up the subject. I didn't know that this was Men's Mental Health Month, but bringing up the subject with Chief about how we're contributing, how SFD is contributing to the health of our firefighters, their mental health in specific, and that was a very good conversation as well.
Okay, great, thank you. For me, I had an opportunity this past month to see our new recruits in a live burn scenario, and albeit I was a little bit late and got to see most of the mop-up, their passion and their desire to learn and to hustle and just to show that energy that only a young firefighter has was refreshing. And they were just full of energy and doing all the jobs that they're supposed to be, pulling hose back, hosing everything down, so it was better than when they first found it. And apparently we were in conjunction with other entities at that training, so we are reaching out to others because there aren't very many, and these opportunities don't come very often. So it was good to see that. As with all of us here, we've been working on with the chief, with the airport lease and giving him our input. As Al mentioned, we did see the fire stations, and I had a desire to see, we budgeted monies for improvements within the stations, and it was now time to see those improvements and see how they came out. And I was very impressed with the quality of the craftsmanship and workmanship of those things that were modified at the stations, and what they're planning on doing down the road. And then, as Joy mentioned, the 9/11 preparations we're getting these different facets together for a full presentation that's coming together slowly but sure, but we have plenty of time and we're working towards that. So that was my month, and very enjoyable. So with that said, anybody have anything else on it? Okay. The next item on the agenda is recognition of Fire Board member Corey Cooperman for her dedicated service to the Sedona Fire District. And I will defer to the chief for the initial comments.
Sure, so, Corey, we want to take a moment. I wish this was kind of at the front of the meeting, or even the whole meeting, because I think I'm really impressed about what you've accomplished in the last 8 years here on the Fire Board, and just the spirit you brought to this board and to the this community. And again, I know all of you are volunteering. I'm here because I get paid. Although, who knows, that could change, right? But based on the board. So anyway, I think, I wanna make a few comments, and then I know, Chairman Soto, I'm sure the rest of the board have comments, and then we actually have something for you too. But just to highlight a couple of things you did accomplish in these last 8 years, you served as clerk since May 2012. So you've been the clerk for quite a while, and for the public that doesn't know, it requires a little more responsibility. And she does review the agendas and signs off on those, and so, it's been another added, responsibility to how you, served on this board, I think should be noted. You were part of the Chapel Fire Station Study Committee, which was a huge deal to this community, and we've talked about placement of the station, how critical and important that was. You've served on our PSPRS board, which we know the retirement system here, for firefighters in the state's been challenging. And so serving on that board and being a part of that, as we, that's a critical component as our firefighters move into those retirement modes. So serving on that board, making sure we're doing it correct here with the Sedona Fire District is essential. You were part of the fire chief hiring process. And I might say that was probably one of the highlights of your career. No, I wouldn't say that. Probably one of the lower parts, but anyway, you served on that group, which again was much appreciated. You've been a highly engaged board member, and really, you've shown a lot of due diligence for this community just to be fair and balanced. You know, as issues come and go, I think sometimes it's maybe easy, the organization you represent, to put all the cards in that basket, but sometimes you gotta be fair, right? And compromise, and you're a proponent of that. You've done an excellent job. I just personally do want to thank you for that service and commitment over the last 8 years. I'm very appreciative for you and the time that I've gotten to know you in my limited time here. Also, I see you as someone who pays attention to detail. I couldn't sneak anything by you. The rest of the board maybe didn't call me, but if I got a call from you, Corey, I knew that there was some kind of detail that we needed to discuss. So that's huge value to the fire chief, but also to the community. And then also just, you're very concise and to the point. There wasn't, hey, let's not worry about your feelings, chief, but here's what I heard, and here's what I saw, and what's the deal with it? I think there's a very, well, most time fire boards and councils, they can become very political and they soften on those things. But to be concise and to the point, that right there is of great value. And so I appreciated that. And I think in general, this fire board, this community is going to miss your wisdom and contribution. Because you weren't operating at the medium, you were doing more, being a clerk, being involved in these various committees. So again, my perspective, and I've been around a lot of councils, a lot of boards, a lot of leaders, you've done an exceptional job. So I know we need to note that, and I do want to compliment you on that and appreciate you. I know personally I will miss you, but I think this board and then the community will miss you too because of the skills you brought to your position. So thank you. And with those comments, then I want to turn it over to Chairman Soto.
Thank you, Chief.
You're
Very
welcome.
touching, very kind words. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
I think, Corey, what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna go ahead and, go around the table and allow all the board to comment and allow you an opportunity at the end.
Okay.
Okay? All right, with that said, Al, would you like to, address Corey?
Well, you know, sort of as the junior member of the fire board, especially since I never was a fireman, I've looked to Corey for guidance, and actually you lead by example. You demonstrate that there's more to being on the board than just showing up at a board meeting, that you need to look beyond the obvious and ask questions when they're appropriate. So I want to thank you, and I hope as time goes, I can be an even better board member because of what you've taught me and shown me.
Thank you so much, Al.
Thank you, Al. Gene?
You know, Corey, it's like the Marine Corps, you never get out. And, a couple of years ago, Al and I came on board, and, I found a mentor in you, and I mentioned that to you in the hallway a little while ago. And for that, I've been blessed to learn from you and others. When you come through the door over there and take your seat, you're prepared. You are prepared. And that's what the chief just mentioned. And, I mean, it's a wonderful thing. And, so I'm going to miss you. However, you're not moving out of Sedona.
Nope.
You know where we are. And so, again, thank you. Thank you very much for your sage advice, your input, and your involvement in this board. Yeah, we'll miss you.
Thank you so much, Gene. It's been a real pleasure to be on the board with you and with everybody. Thank you very much.
Joy?
So Corey, a lot of interactions that we've had since I came back on the board, and I've watched you when I wasn't on the board. Your diligence, your intelligence, your passion, your integrity that you've had throughout your entire 8 years is bar none. I've known a lot of board members, and I haven't seen all those factors come together in one, and it's just been amazing. In the beginning, I'm like, oh no, she's asking another question. But I'll tell you, all those questions were on point and needed to be asked, and thank God you're here to do that, you know. And then, of course, you know, we've developed a little bit of a friendship, and we've gone out to lunch, and, you know, knowing more about you and your family, it's just been, you know, a great pleasure for me. You've been an amazing board member. You've been an amazing contributor to the Sedona community, and I'm glad you're not leaving. But I will miss everything about you, because you're a calming presence. You know, you're a calming presence, and everything that you do is just riddled with, you know, you're prepared and you're intelligent. It all comes together to create you. So I thank you for being you, and I'm really going to miss you, seriously.
Oh, my goodness. Well, it's very touching. Thank you so much, Norman. Thank you.
All right.
It's a lot to hear.
Yeah.
I mean that it's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
We love you.
Well, I've got some thoughts, and I also have a couple letters here that came in from out of the area that have been asked to be read.
Oh, my.
And the first one is from Chief Kazian. And it is titled with Sedona Fire District Board, Sedona Fire District staff, and the public. Today marks the close of the great and storied public service career of board member Corey Cooperman. She is not only an amazing person, but a friend I have had the honor and privilege to serve with as a fire chief during many of her years on the fire board. While I have worked alongside many great board members, Corey truly stands out as someone who has shown her desire to learn the business and be a scholar in every aspect under her charge. She has spent countless hours working on issues related to leadership, community engagement, labor relations, local government, and pension board matters. Her conviction has never wavered. Her commitment to the budget, serving the people she was elected to represent, and she is focused on personnel matters as her top priorities. While I cannot be there tonight, I wanted to share my deep appreciation for the amazing work Corey has given the Sedona Fire District over the years. She has truly given much of herself and deserves a large round of applause. Out of her service, our friendship is something that I will personally cherish as one of the highlights of my time in Sedona.
Wow.
Corey, you have served your community well, and you should be very proud of the work you have done. The Sedona Fire District and the community will forever be indebted for your tireless effort. I am confident you have left Sedona much better than you found it. Christy and I are endlessly thankful for the lifelong friendship we have gained, and we wish you and Oliver the best in your next adventure. Thank you for your years of service, your courage to do good government, and you should be proud for a job well done. Respectfully, Chris Kazian.
Oh, that's a really beautiful, beautiful letter and such kind thoughts. I want to thank Fabian for that.
Okay. I received this just the other day, and this is from retired Sedona Fire District Executive Assistant Tricia Greer.
Oh, Tricia.
Dear Corey, thank you for saving Sedona Fire District when we desperately needed heroes back in 2012. At a time when we employees felt somewhat hopeless and depressed about people irrationally attacking us, personally and professionally, you stepped up and offered your calm but assertive demeanor to defend emergency services for our community. Thank you sincerely, Tricia Greer.
Wow, that's lovely. Thanks, Tricia.
Okay. And I have also written a letter, but that is for you to read on your own.
Oh, later.
On your own.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. It's been an honor to work with you, as everybody has iterated. You know, prior to becoming the board chair, I looked at the previous board chair and modeled some of my style after that, because that board chair was in command when he was in this chair. And I have done the same with you, in that I have listened to what you have said to me in private, at meetings, in relation to performance, and I have always listened to every point that you have made, and I have taken it to heart. And it has made me a better board member, a better chair, and a better person. And I thank you for that.
Oh, thank you, Dave.
Your time on the pension board was one that is, kind of goes unnoticed. Nobody knows about that, but you did an exemplary job on that for the time that you were on it. And again, I followed in your shoes when I became the board chair for that board that I'm also involved with. So you've had a large influence on my life as it deals with volunteerism with our community, and I could only say thank you. So you've done a job well done, and I could only wish you and Oliver the very best. And Virginia and I look forward to that dinner that's been eluding us. So with that said, that concludes my comment. It's been a pleasure these years, and I hate to see you go, because you're kind of like, for me, the last of the old show, regime. So we're off to a new start, a whole new group coming in. Well, not a whole new group, but a few new members. And so with that said, Corey, the floor is yours.
Oh, my. Well, you know, I really appreciate all these words and very positive comments. It's been a very rewarding 8 years. You know, as Tricia said, it started during a time of turmoil for this district, and I was asked to run. I got a phone call saying, would you please run for the board? I think because of my involvement to some degree beforehand. And it was a lot to say yes to, because I am a somewhat reserved, shy person, actually. And so it was not easy to know that I would be out there expected to meet people, go to groups, go to chamber meetings, and do all that, and then be in debates. But I said yes because I care so much about our emergency services and about our citizens who, in their time of need quality and a good response time. And so that's why I said yes. And it's been so rewarding, all these 8 years. I'm just grateful for the education I've gotten from, you know, initially Chief Kazian. For years, he really spent time with me teaching me about the inner workings. As you mentioned, Al, they're very complex, the inner workings of serving the community. And then with Chief Trotline following, you've just been very kind and generous with your continued education, and also explaining your thinking about where you want to go with certain activities, certain issues. It's the leadership team over the years. The leadership underneath the chief has change, but they've all contributed to my, being able to be, as good a board member as I can be. And the admin staff has kept me, signing what I need to sign. Very appreciative, and they've always just been so kind, and, when I've come to, do those kinds of tasks. And then the board, you know, you've just all been a wonderful board to be on, and it's been interesting to watch the boards, you know, as I've gone through the 8 years, they've changed, and, to watch more and more knowledgeable people come on and, function as a team. I know we have individual opinions at times, but overall, we are aligned around wanting excellence in the service that's given. We want safety for our firefighters, and we want to be fiscally responsible. And this has just been a wonderful board in that way, the camaraderie and, on it. So I thank you for that. You know, there's something that a few years ago I got this Citizen of the Year award, which was so touching to me that when I was asked to get up and speak about it, I got a little flummoxed and, didn't say what I wanted to say, so I'm gonna do it now, if that's okay. Just a few years late, but really the most, personally, the most, besides being able to, of course, play a small role in keeping our district safe, keeping our citizens safe, the most personally rewarding aspect of being on this fire board has been being introduced to the firefighting culture. You know, it's just an extraordinary culture that I didn't know about. The ethics are just so beautiful of, not only showing up, but doing the right thing, doing more than asked, doing it with, care and dedication and integrity. Those are all firefighting, guidelines, that I've been exposed to year by year, and hopefully, and I think to some degree, they have, you know, come off on me, and that I am a better person. I operate better because, I'm talking about in my personal life, out in the world, I operate with better ethics because of the firefighting culture that I've been exposed to. And it means a lot to me, that. So I got to say that. And so thank you all. And I'm looking forward to Janet Jablow being, coming on board. And, you know, she's been studying and going to some meetings and watching all our meetings. So I think that you all are going to just really enjoy her as she comes on board.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I think you do the...
Thank you.
Chief Elwood, I think you have a little something extra.
Yes, so to finish, we do have a couple of gifts we want to note, we're going to present to you. One is your commemorative parade out in front at the base of the flagpole.
Uh-huh.
And, with your name and your service years, and we know there's other great people that are on those bricks out there under the flagpole, but one thing I wanted to note about that, that's where any employee that comes in the SFD, that's where we swear you in, right around that flagpole. So we will always remember you as we swear in new employees. This is a living organism, this organization. So we want you to know we'll have that out there for you to come anytime you want. You're always welcome to any of the stations. And then we have another gift from the district for you. Hopefully this will give you some great memories. And so we wanted to give you something that was special, but you will see this is kind of how it presents. And I'm going to read the plaque here if you want to come around. So, Al, picture.
My camera, look at
Here,
it.
I'm here.
You want to take some pictures here?
so the vase sits on top,
Beautiful.
but here, we'll read it.
Mm-hmm.
So it says, to honor Corey Cooperman with gratitude and admiration for your commitment to the well-being of the district, its members, and the community it serves. So this is for you to display. Now, it's also told
Beautiful.
if you don't wanna associate with the district, then you just turn it backwards, and it's just a nice face on a stand. But we know that's not gonna be the case, so,
Stand together there.
yes. Here, well, yeah, I'll hold it, and I'm not gonna hand it off so we can, but here.
Okay.
Look at me, look at me. Okay.
Oh, this is beautiful.
It is.
Oh, what a lovely gift.
Perhaps, we get a picture of
Thank you so
all
much.
the board members with
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
and then.
Then I'm gonna break protocol, cause the proximity is gonna change,
Right.
I wanna hug you, say thank you.
Oh,
No, it's less than 3 seconds, so we're still good by CDC guidelines.
Oh, that's
Let's get Corey in the middle and
As well, but
get ahead of your cameras and come on in.
I wanna love you. And a quick,
I'll be the holder, you be the snapper.
I want to touch you, okay.
I'm gonna take your mask off.
There we go, and, yeah, all of that, there we go. Sweet.
Okay.
And a quick.
I want one of these pictures.
Awesome.
Perfect.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Oh,
this is gorgeous.
Okay, all right.
All right.
Heidi, I'm gonna send it to you.
Okay.
Oh.
I can
This is
distribute
really nice.
widely.
I just got a
Okay.
plaque.
Excellent, thank you.
You still got some years to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
So here, we'll let you have the box with some,
Oh, okay, that's
Thanks, yeah, it still has its phone in it.
it's still foam,
pretty.
so then it'll help transport it.
Oh, I like
Better.
that, thank you.
And we'll give you a hand taking it out to your car.
Yeah, that's really beautiful.
All right.
I can
Very
carry
good.
the bag.
Oh, hi.
Sorry, as I knocked Heidi
Oh,
over.
it's just one minute. What a lovely gift.
That is really,
And that was
Beautiful.
Steve,
Well, I just
Okay.
want to say on the mic, it's a beautiful gift, and thank you very much.
Well, it is well deserved.
yes.
Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that, concludes our meeting for this month. So be it vested in me to call the meeting adjourned.
Hey.
Thank you.
That.
And I couldn't read.